Hello everyone, welcome back to another deck profile with me, Chocobilly, and I'm going to address it at the very start of the video. Yes, my t-shirt does say Butthole on it. It is a Butthole Surfers t-shirt. They're a great band, I recommend the album Pepper. Anyway, this is my Final Fantasy VIII deck. There are so many different iterations of this style of deck, and so many different routes you can take. I say so many, you're kind of limited, and there are some obvious key cards, but I've decided to take a different route, not focusing so much on the newer Fujin and Raijin per se. Obviously you've got the new Cypher, who is incredibly good, similarly for the Idea as well. But yeah, just kind of mixing and matching some of the older cards and the newer cards, and just some spice in there as well. But I'll start with the limit breaks, backups, monster summons, and basically I'll work my way right to left. So first up, we've got Sergei, Victoria, Cloud, and Lightning in the limit breaks. I could technically throw some Earth or Fire in there, as there are Fire and Earth cards in this deck. Earth, almost definitely not going to happen. Fire, again, not really likely to happen, and to be honest, Mon, you can't use outside of Mono Fire, and Zac isn't really powerful enough on his own. So Sergei, Victoria, Cloud, and Lightning. Victoria was also a bit of a push as well, because this isn't a particularly discard heavy deck, so making sure your opponent's at 2 or 0 cards might be a bit of a struggle, but still, she's generally a good card. And if your opponent does happen to go down that low and forgets, then, you know, you have an option there. Sergei, move something out of the way. Cloud, move something out of the way. And Lightning ultimately gets you either a Ramu or an Odin back, which are both very, very good cards. Right, backups. So I tried to focus a bit more on the 8 cards for the backups, but there'll be one core standout card here, and that is Squall. So yeah, obviously I'm not running a forward Squall because I'm running backup Squall. There is a reason behind this. Anyone that has played this game for more than like 4 opuses probably knows that reason. But yeah, I'm running Squall, who is searchable off of the Amina. Now Amina can actually only search a few cards. So Squall is the obvious first intended target. You then have Quistis, and then finally you have Jumbo Flan. So actually you only have a total of 5 cards to be able to search. So Amina obviously searches one of those. Probably not going to be able to play the rest, or sorry, probably not going to be able to play any more Amina because, yeah. But ultimately, Squall is the main target for that. Now, this is, I think it's 17 ice cards, 16 ice cards to 28 lightning, and then everything else is miscellaneous. But with that in mind, even if you played all of the non-ice backups, you would still have technically an ice card, an ice backup, provided you are casting a Final Fantasy VIII card. So Sid Kramer obviously fills that slot. Reeve is just a really good way of being able to find those ice cards if you don't have it. So Lightning doesn't really have a good means of getting to ice outside of Kalia Shival into Tono. But again, I wanted to focus more on the 8 engine, so I didn't want to run the whole engine of Agito Cadets. So yeah, Amina into Squall, Reeve into something else, then you got Sid Kramer for obvious reasons, Raijin to be able to give your Cyphers haste, which is very important because Cypher has haste as soon as he enters. You don't require any additional activated abilities or something like that. Raijin wants to immediately give him haste. And then Esthar Soldier, there's only one of, but ultimately is an 8 character. So that means technically if you had Esthar, Raijin, Squall, and Sid Kramer as your backup line, then Rinoa would be completely free. So not too bad. Basically, more 8 backups makes Rinoa better, and Rinoa is a really good card. Right, monsters, Jumbo Flan. So, as I mentioned, I put it in the deck because it's a good Amina target. I actually, normally you'd put something like Biblos in the deck, but I wanted something that had immediate value to just move something out of the way, and ultimately it can become a forward as well, which is kind of nice. Biblos obviously has that longer term value of being able to attack, make your opponent discard, which with, you know, Ramu means you can give it haste as well, which is really, really good. Make it a forward, give it haste, make your opponent discard a card, done through something else out of the way, you know, that's actually pretty decent. But I just wanted that instant effect of Jumbo Flan enters, not having to go through the effort of making a forward, going to attack, giving haste, that sort of thing. So yeah, just immediate entry effect. And then summons. So Ramu does something, 5k something, and then give something haste. It's a really good card. I don't know what more to say. 5k 9 times out of 10 isn't enough to kill most things, but there are those occasional little forwards which are really annoying to deal with, so it's good for that. Similarly with dull, if you can't kill it, just dull it. But the haste is super important because obviously with this style of deck you want to be hasting as much as you can. Now it is an ice lightning deck, However, I don't have any Alcid, nor do I have any Zeramus, because I didn't want to go that route. I didn't want to just throw them in like they're in every other deck. I wanted to do a bit more fun things. But ultimately, some standout cards that Ramu is really good with is if you do manage to get to damage 5 and then survive somehow, say at damage 6 you hit an EX burst, Odin to kill your opponent's last attacking forward, being able to Ramu and give haste to your Rinoa, who at damage 5, when Rinoa attacks, dull all the characters your opponent controls, is really strong, because that clears the way for any other forwards to be able to attack, hopefully pushing game for you. I mentioned, obviously, Cypher. Now, you do have Raijin ultimately there to be able to give haste, but if you don't have that Raijin for whatever reason, then being able to give Cypher haste immediately to then be able to break something, again, really, really useful. If Irvine's initial entry effect got cancelled, then being able to give him haste through Ramu and then attack to be able to then still remove stuff is still great. And ultimately, anything that Quistis targets as well. So you can play something onto the field. Let's say you say, I keep on doubling my words today. Let's say you Rinoa into your Quistis. You play Quistis onto the field to give Rinoa her effect. You then Ramu the Rinoa to give her haste, dull everything out of the way, and make your opponent randomly discard a card through Quistis. So, you know, there are means and ways. Shiva. This could be swapped for pretty much anything else, to be honest with you, but I really like the effect of being able to make everything lose its effects. And I think that's important when there are so many monsters, and so board wipes in general are really important because of the fact that, yeah, if your opponent has protection or something along those lines, even then, you know, there are certain types of protection like the 7 Walls S ability to be able to protect all the 3-cost forwards. There are still means around it, obviously, but just more board wipes or board-wide effects are useful, and Shiva affects your opponent's monsters and backups as well, and I really, really like that. So making it so that Tyro can't be multicolor, making it so that all your opponent's monsters can't become forwards unless they do it then and there, at which point they're forwards ready for you to have to break or kill, whatever. You know, there are so many good reasons to run Shiva, but ultimately I only have one off because she's very situational. Carbuncle, because he is a 8 card, and obviously Sid Kramer on the field means that hypothetically you should be able to cast it. Choose one character you control, dull it until the end of the turn against character cannot be broken. This character cannot be chosen by opponent summons or abilities. So yeah, it makes it very, very nice to be able to, you know, just whip that out as a bit of spice. And with Man in Black in the deck, it means that hopefully you get to recast it as well, because that's kind of funny. Odin, fantastic card. Again, with Man in Black, if you're able to recast it, let's say you're at damage 5 again because you hit an EX burst Odin, you get another one to hand, pay 2, kill something can't block, get it back to hand with Man in Black, kill 2, something else can't block. You know, this is a really, really, really good effect. And then finally, Eden. Now, you could probably not have 2 Eden in the deck, but I just really want to use this effect because it's Eden. But ultimately, the cost required to cast Eden is reduced by 1 for each 8 character you control. Now, I mentioned that you've got 4 backups alone. If you can get to 4 backups, probably more likely 2 or 3, but then a few forwards as well. And given the fact that you've got a Dea and Selfie that can search, Cypher that can get something back, Rinoa that can get something back, you know, you've got means of going to multiple forwards fairly quickly and then casting Eden on the cheap. And then, Man in Black attacks, get Eden back, cast it again for cheap, hopefully getting rid of lots and lots of different forwards. And then finally moving on to the forwards. So I have a singular Kyros in the deck, and admittedly not a very good card, and realistically you should really only run Kyros if you're in more of a fire themed 8 deck, because being able to Phoenix in Kyros is actually really good, because when it enters the field you get to choose a forward, give it 2000 power. If it's an 8 forward, it also gains haste, first strike and brave, so being able to give a forward plus 2k to your opponent's board and first strike to that forward is really good. And I think all of the forwards outside of Man in Black are 8 forwards, so you should be alright. But ultimately Kyros, being able to play Kyros onto the field to then surprise my forwards now bigger than yours, and it's got haste, first strike and brave, is actually pretty decent. I really like that. And being able to Selfie into, or Idea into the Kyros is actually quite nice, because hypothetically you can go Idea into Selfie into Kyros. You play Kyros onto the field, you give Idea haste, you then use Selfie's effect to give Kyros haste or something. Actually no, let's go Kyros gives Selfie haste, Selfie gives Idea haste. You now have 2 big forwards that can attack with brave, probably first strike on one of them, minus AK hopefully with an attack spell. So it allows you to kind of chain these actually pretty decent forwards together. And, you know, that was potentially with no forwards whatsoever. 5 for Idea, 4 for Selfie, 2 for Kyros. but still doable. The one thing you have to bear in mind is the fact that you need the fire for Selfie and the fire for Kyros. But, you know, I'm just spitballing here. Ultimately, you can do other things as well. Like I said, Kyros and Quistis quite nice together as well. A means of just giving haste, really, with Kyros, and Brave and First Strike, which are also really good. Quistis, making your opponent randomly discard a card is disgusting. So being able to, again, Selfie into Quistis, play Quistis. Oh, now, unfortunately, Quistis can't give herself her own ability. Actually, no, sorry. When Quistis enters the field, choose one forward until then. Yeah, so actually, no, I'll take that back. Quistis can give herself her own effect. I was thinking of Selfie. She can't give herself her own effect. So you Quistis into Selfie, Quistis on herself, Selfie on the Quistis, and then attack. You've now got an 8k Brave randomly attacking forward. Randomly discard attacking forward. But obviously, Quistis works nicely with some of the other cards as well. Quistis is a really good card if you have a forward that can attack twice as well, which I think you'll find works nicely with Gilgamesh, because obviously at damage 3, Gilgamesh gains Brave, and Gilgamesh can attack twice in the same turn. So that's every single time your opponent has to randomly discard. Grim. Fujin. So you could make an argument there that if Cypher is so important to the deck, you should run 3 Fujin, but ultimately there's a big portion of this deck which is Recursion, so hopefully you wouldn't need it. But ultimately, making it so that your Cypher is summon proof is really, really good. It's nice to be able to have First Strike through the most recent Fujin, but actually I prefer summon proof, because First Strike First Strike alludes to the fact that you're probably getting into combat. But if you've got enough destruction or enough removal, then you shouldn't need to worry about that. So ultimately, making it so that your Cypher is already summon-proof is really good. Now, realistically, the way you want to play it is Fujin on the field first, because that way you've got no entry effects, and then the Cypher, because obviously you have his entry effect of 2 things into the card, get 1 8 forward back to your hand, and that way he's already summon-proof. But remember, you have to be at damage 3 for that summon proof as well. And, you know, gains plus 4k if you're at damage 3 as well anyway. So that's not too shabby. And Fujin will also be plus 4k as well. Irvine, because Irvine is a fantastic card that can remove lots of things from the deck. Or from your opponent's break zone, sorry. Probably worth putting 3 in here as well. Like maybe taking out the Kyros and putting just the 3rd Irvine. But yeah, really, really good card. Quistis. So there's only one of this Quistis. Obviously I've got this Quistis in here, and there are 2 of her. But I wanted to include her because it's pretty. I also do like the effect as well. To be able to hopefully shift 3 things or more out of the way, as in dull and freeze them, that's really nice. Obviously, it's just, you know, when she enters the field, choose... Actually, sorry, take that back. When Quistis enters the field, choose up to the same number of characters. So sorry, I forgot that. That's another reason that I focus so much on the 8 backups as well, so using something like School. So actually, you could argue there is more precedent for using 2 of this Quistis and only 1 of the other, but ultimately I put 2 of the other because I wanted more Amina targets. When Quistis enters the field, choose up to the same number of characters as category 8 forwards you control. So it does depend on your forwards, not your backups. And then dull them, and if you control 3 or more category 8 forwards, also freeze them. Now again, it's typically Selfie and Idea and then Quistis. Obviously, I don't have the forward School in this deck to be able to free play anything, but realistically you've got enough searches, enough recursion that you shouldn't need to worry too much about it anyway. Cypher, when he attacks you get to break something. When he enters the field, put 2 things into the deck, and then you get to get something back to your hand as well. Anyway, one of the many recursion cards in a deck that works really nice, and again, having Raijin on the field, Cypher, just go ham, break something immediately is really strong. Renoa, because she's Renoa, can be free cast, get something back to your hand. Renoa, I mean, there are so many chains in here which are really good. Idea into Selfie, into Renoa, into Cypher, into Irvine? I think that's about as long as you can go. Yeah, because you've got search, search, retrieval, retrieval. Yeah. And then, yeah, but ultimately, the good thing about that is the fact that you'll have Cypher, who should have haste. Let's say, hypothetically, you did do that. Idea into Selfie, into Cypher, or into Renoa, into Cypher. And that's a good thing. Idea and Selfie, doesn't matter which one comes first. Cypher, Renoa, doesn't matter which one comes first. And then into Irvine, let's say. You have Irvine, naturally gains haste. Cypher gains haste off of Raijin. Renoa can be given haste through Selfie. So you've just played like 5 forwards onto the field, and 3 of them can attack. If you've got Ramu in hand as well, another 1 can attack. That's just crazy, and that could have been with no forwards on the field as well. So an expensive turn, don't get me wrong, but still, you could do it. And then Gilgamesh, yeah. Now, this is another reason that I actually put Carbuncle into the deck as well, is because hypothetically, if I play Gilgamesh onto the field, you can Earth, Ice, Fire, Lightning, Light. Yeah, so you can hit 5 in total to break something, which is not too bad. Now, to bear in mind the fact that if you are removing the Earth or are removing the Light, that is fewer targets for your Man in Black to be able to hit. But ultimately, if you're breaking a really troublesome forward, then probably worth it anyway. And then, yeah, like I mentioned, Gilgamesh can attack twice, which with Quistis is really nice. Again, also quite nice if you're threatening with Kyros. Yes, obviously, Gilgamesh already gains haste and can potentially have Brave as well, but giving him first strike, if your opponent has to block, is really good. Selfie, because she's Selfie, she searches, then she gets to give something plus 1,000 haste and Brave, which is really good. Yeah, not much more to say, really. Laguna, so this ultimately is the reason I'm running Squall backup, because when you control a card named Squall, Laguna gains plus 1,000 power, and when Laguna attacks, choose up to 2 characters, dull them and freeze them, and then when Laguna enters field, choose one character, dull it and freeze it. So hypothetically, you could Selfie into Laguna onto the field, dull and freeze a character, give Laguna plus 1,000 Brave and haste, attack, dull and freeze 2 more things. And that's pretty significant. Dulling and freezing 3 characters, could be forwards, could be backups, could be monsters, whatever, it doesn't matter, is pretty decent. Given the fact that if you've got the Squall backup, he's also a 10k first strike, a 10k forward, and then with the Selfie, then also becomes an 11k. That's pretty big. And like I said, shifts things out of the way. So yeah, I wanted to go this route of moving the others away, and this is why I chose to omit cards like Al Cid and Zeramus, because I wanted to find more fun ways of doing the same effects that those cards do. Man in Black, the only non-8 forward in the deck, but ultimately can replay Ramu, can replay Carbuncle. There aren't many summons in the deck, so you could probably bring Man in Black down to a 1 cost, but ultimately you want to increase your ability to be able to reuse Odins and Ramus and Edens, so, you know, having to ultimately has seen me through pretty well, and Man in Black dies pretty quickly anyway, so being able to play another is also pretty important. And then finally Adir, because she searches again any 8 forward, gone over the chain already, and she can remove things out of the way. Now, she isn't as easy to trigger with her remove effect as she is in a more recent 8 deck, because I don't have the newer Fujin and Raijin, which means I'm not removing things from my deck into the break zone, removing from the deck, you know what I mean. But I do still have the Cypher, which does the same effect, and ultimately Adir does do the effects as well, and you only really have to wait until you're about 3 or 4 turns in, till you've probably got about 10 in your break zone anyway. And that is my 8 deck. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Like I said, there's a big focus on haste, but you also kind of require some setup for that to work. You need to have the Raijin down, you want to have the Squall down, you Sid Kramer to be able to play the Selfie and the Kyros, so, you know, realistically it's like a mid-game haste aggro weird thing, but ultimately a lot of fun. And, you know, realistically, even if you don't get those backups down, you still have other means of being able to give stuff haste anyway, so there's that. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. What sort of 8 deck have you guys built? We finally have some decent 8 cards and 8 support with lots of searching, so that's pretty good. But I just wonder when we'll finally get an Alone card. Like, how do we not have Alone? Like, one of the most crucial characters in Final Fantasy VIII. Who knows? Anyway, thank you so much for watching, guys. Stay safe, be lucky, and I'll see you in the next video.